Oh yeah, I remember. You know, my wife and I moved to Seattle in 1993. We had a young child in 94. And it was during that time um, that we lived in Seattle. We were on 52nd and Ravenna, and we were pretty close to where uh, Kurt Cobain lived. You know, I mean, we lived in a completely different world, and nothing like in his neighborhood or anything like that. But within a few miles, as far as the just a few miles as far as the crow flies, we had proximity to where he was. So when he passed away on April 5th in 1994, it was tragic. You know, I really felt the impact of that. And ever since then, I've become more of a fan of his, and I feel very suspicious about how he passed away. I think he was murdered. I felt that immediately, you know, when I heard the news. I remember my intuition, my first feeling was suspects. This is sus, man. You know, this is completely suspicious. I remember thinking about that. And then everything after that, every piece of information after that proved that it was suspicious and that there was something funny going on. God rest in peace, Kurt Cobain. Oh my God, I love you, man. Incidentally, my favorite band, my favorite album, and my favorite song are my favorite song, "Ode to Joy," from, you know, Beethoven's Symphony Number 9. It's hard to beat that song. It's got everything in it, and everybody's been trying to copy it since he produced it. I mean, it may be the apex of music. I don't know about that, but it's right up there. And then the album that turned me on, because I was having a healing night. I had taken some mushroom tea, I guess you might say. I was maybe 18. I was trying to heal myself, and in those come up here, baby. In those experiences, that night I just bought the Purple album, Greatest Hits of Jimi Hendrix. Thanks to my sister. My sister works for Bomp Records as a talent scout, and she always poo-pooed my musical selections, and so she's the one who turned me on to the Violent Femmes, and she's right. She really spends a lot of time listening. And so she turned me on to Jimi Hendrix. I hadn't listened to him yet. I actually had a bad opinion of him. I didn't like heavy metal. I thought it was too violent and crazy. And that's how I thought of Jimi Hendrix. Well, take a little bit of medicine and then listen to Jimi Hendrix for real, you know, authentically, while you're open. And you can learn that Jimi Hendrix has more authenticity in his thumb than most people have in their entire body. And so I was a huge fan instantly, and have been ever since that night. And so he holds the place for the best album. And then the best band is by far the Grateful Dead. They have more quality songs. They have more length of playing. They have the best philosophy. They believe in open source information sharing. So they don't care if people are recording their music or tap into the soundboard while they're playing. They want that to happen. And because they did that and they understood the power of love, they are, you know, going to be one of the most famous bands in history ever. In the future thousands of years, we'll know about them and their music because they were believing in the power of love from day one. And they believed in the power of love because they also took medicine. They also knew from the early days, you know, even before the electric Kool-Aid acid test that Ken Kesey was having in La Honda, the Grateful Dead, they were already on track, I can see, you know, to having spiritual experiences and everything that the medicine can give a person. in a positive way. So the electric Kool-Aid acid test sort of organized that and proved to everybody and themselves that it was a good thing and it was working. And then the Grateful Dead became a band, and and it's been working on us ever since, healing the power of the love, the authenticity. And there's only a few people that can pull it off anymore. Jerry Garcia, when he passed away in August of 1995, was such a loss. I mean, it was so... I thought it was sort of like the end of the world. I mean, I remember when Stevie Ray Vaughan died. I was working at a ski resort. I was a ski technician at Timberline Lodge. And it was my first real job out of high school that was, kind of like a real job. And I'm working up there, and all of a sudden, we had the radio on all day, and all of a sudden it came across that Stevie Ray Vaughan had died. And I remember people crying and everything, and I was like, yeah, he's good, but he's not Jimi Hendrix. And he's really good though, but he's not, like the Grateful Dead or anything. But I get it. Stevie Ray Vaughan was fantastic. He was on fire. And if you like that blues, Texas blues, he was the best. But I'm not a huge blues guy, but I appreciate the heart. If you can play blues with enough heart like Stevie did or Jimmy, I'm going to pay attention to you. Well, the Grateful Dead, everything they played was heart. I think that's their moniker. That's what the Grateful Dead represents, is passion. And there's not a lot of people who can play passion. Well, I found a group on YouTube that can do it. And I hope they don't mind that I mention their name here. But if you like the Grateful Dead, you have to go look at their YouTube channel. They're called Toby and Davey Play Dead. Kind of a funny title. And they play the Grateful Dead. And these guys... they're a lot younger than me, so I say that with all the sincerity and love. But these boys are going to be the future for the Grateful Dead movement. There's only, like I'm saying, there's only a few people